Here we are once again, my brothers and sisters, for another exciting Living Hope Today study. And today we find ourselves in Judges chapter 9, and it's really a long chapter, but it's very insightful. You remember at the end of chapter 8, what were we told? Well, Gideon had a concubine in Shechem, and they had a son named Abimelech. Now, Gideon also had 70 other sons. He's a really busy guy. But it says at the end of chapter 8 that he had Abimelech with his concubine and that the people of Shechem didn't honor him. Now, watch what happens as we get to chapter 9. Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, remember that's Gideon's other name. He went to his mother's brothers in Shechem, and he said to them, and to all his mother's clan. Now we're talking about the concubines people, right? Their group. Ask all the citizens of Shechem, which is better for you, to have all 70 of Jerubbaal's sons rule over you, in other words, Gideon's line, or just one man? Remember, I am your flesh and blood. So Abimelech is quick to point out that those other 70 guys aren't our people. All right? When the brothers repeated all this to the citizens of Shechem, they were inclined to follow Abimelech. Yeah, for they said, he's our brother. So, okay, now we have a little power grab going on. They gave him 70 shekels of silver from the temple of Baal-berith. All right, so now from this pagan temple, Abimelech's getting money, and Abimelech used it to do what? To hire reckless adventurers. Well, that's code for thugs. All right, reckless adventurers who became his followers. So now Abimelech's got this little gang going on in Shechem. Well, he went to his father's home, so now we're in Ophrah, right, up north, a little north of Shechem. All right, and on one stone, murdered his 70 brothers. So hey, now that I'm going to take power as the descendant of Gideon, as the one that's going to lead over everybody, let me wipe out the competition. I'm going to kill all my half-brothers. The sons of Jerubbaal, those are Gideon's sons. But there's one guy, Jotham, the youngest of Jerubbaal, escaped by hiding. So now we have two groups. Gideon's descendants through his wives that are all murdered, and Gideon's descendant through his concubine, which is Abimelech, which has now taken power and eliminated the competition. Then all the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo gathered beside the great tree at the pillar in Shechem to crown Abimelech king. You're our king. Now, I couldn't help but remember the end of Judges 8, but Gideon told them, I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. They tried to make Gideon king in chapter 8 because he had so much success defeating the Midianites. He says, no, God's your ruler. Well, by the time you get a little ways into chapter 9, Abimelech has wiped out the family, and he has been crowned king. When Jotham, okay, that's the son that belongs to Gideon's line but did not get murdered, when he was told about this, he climbed up on the mountain of Mount Gerizim and shouted to them, listen to me, citizens of Shechem, so that God may listen to you. All right, hear ye, hear ye. Here it comes. One day the trees went out to anoint a king for themselves, and they said to the olive tree, be our king. But the olive tree answered, should I give up my oil by which both gods and men are honored to hold sway over the trees? So in other words, the olive tree has some sort of honor, has some sort of function, and it says, no, I'm not going to rule over you. Next, the trees said to the fig tree, come, be our king. But the fig tree replied, should I give up my fruit so good and sweet to hold sway over the trees? Notice the fig tree has a honorable function and refuses to be the king. And then the tree said to the vine, Come be our king. But the vine answered, should I give up my wine, which cheers both gods and men, to hold sway over the trees? In other words, I'd rather stay operating within the function God has given me because it's blessing people than be a king. Okay. As Jotham goes on, he says, finally, all the trees said to the thorn bush, we're going down. Come be our king. The thorn bush said to the trees, if you really want to anoint me king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, then let fire come out from the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon. Now, notice that the result of making the thorn bush king is going to be some sort of fire. We'll see this later. Excuse me. Now, if you have acted honorably and in good faith when you made Abimelech king, and if you have been fair to Jerubbaal, that's Gideon, and his family, and if you've treated him as he deserves, and to think that my father fought for you, risked his life to rescue you from the hand of Midian, but today you have revolted against my father's family, murdered his 70 sons on a single stone, and made Abimelech, the son of his slave girl, king over the citizens of Shechem because he is your brother. Okay, so now we're getting down to it. You guys are asking the thorn bush to be your ruler, and you've acted despicably, right? If then you have acted honorably and in good faith toward Jerubbaal and his family today, may Abimelech be your joy, and may you be his too. Like, if this is good, what you've done, okay, I hope it really works out. But, and he knows the answer to this, right? If you have not, again, we come back to fire. Pay attention. Let fire come out from Abimelech and consume you, citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come out from you, citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and consume Abimelech. In other words, if you guys have acted treacherously, everybody's going to burn. That's the prophecy. That's the judgment spoken by Jotham. Then Jotham fled, escaping to Beer, and he lived there because he was afraid of his brother, Abimelech. All right, so Abimelech has now completed his power grab, right? After Abimelech had governed Israel 3 years. Just a little side note here. Notice that God allows this, that these things happen at the hands of men. It seems like God could have stopped Abimelech. God could have hit him with a lightning bolt and stopped all this, but God allows all this to happen. But look at this, 23. Abimelech's governed 3 years, and what happens? God sent an evil spirit. You know, we say the devil is God's devil. Well, here we watch God exercising his right to bring judgment through spiritual satanic force. Interesting, isn't it? God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the citizens of Shechem, who acted treacherously against Abimelech. Okay, so now there's a crack in the union, right? Now the people of Shechem that have made Abimelech their king don't like him, and they act treacherously against him. God did this in order that the crime against Jerubbaal's 70 sons, the shedding of their blood, in other words, you murdered 70 guys from Gideon's line. God did this so that their blood might be avenged on their brother Abimelech and on the citizens of Shechem who had helped him murder his brothers. So there's complicity between Abimelech and Shechem. They've all are going to receive the judgment of God for the treachery that they have committed. In opposition to him, these citizens of Shechem set men on the hilltops to ambush and rob everyone who passed by. So now there's a little extra thug group in Shechem that's robbing the passers-by. King Abimelech doesn't like that very much. What else happens? Well, now look at 26. Gaal, son of Ebed, moved with his brothers into Shechem, and its citizens put their confidence in him. Okay, so now we're going to have a rival power to Abimelech rise up. After they had gone out into the fields and gathered the grapes and trodden them, they held a festival in the temple of their God, and while they were eating and drinking, they cursed Abimelech. Kings don't like that. Kings do not like that when the subjects revolt. Okay. Then Gaal, son of Ebed, this is the rival guy, said, "Who is Abimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should be subject to him? Isn't he Jerubaal's son, and isn't Zebul his deputy? Serve the men of Hamor, Shechem's father. Why should we serve Abimelech?" So now this guy named Gaal is calling for open revolt against Abimelech. If only this people were under my command, then I would get rid of him. I would say to Abimelech, "Call out your whole army." Then when Zebul, the governor of the city, heard what Gaal, son of Ebed, said, he was very angry. Okay, so now we are introduced to another guy, Zebul. He's the governor. Okay, so we got Abimelech, and we got the other leader. What was his name? Help me, God. I'm getting old. Show me again. Gaal, that's his name. All right, they're getting ready to fight. So Zebul, under cover, he sent messengers to Abimelech. So the governor is now doing recon, saying, "Gaal, son of Ebed, and his brothers have come to Shechem and are stirring up the city against you." So it seems like he's on Abimelech's side right here. "Now then, during the night, you and your men should come and lie in wait in the fields." All right, so Zebul, the governor, is giving Abimelech the plot on how to get rid of Gaal. "In the morning at sunrise, advance against the city. When Gaal and his men come out against you, do whatever your hand finds to do." All right, in other words, that's when the fight will happen, and that's when you can wipe them out and have your power. So Abimelech and all his troops set out by night and took up concealed positions near Shechem in 4 companies. Here it comes. Now Gaal, that's the opposition leader, son of Ebed, had gone out and was standing at the entrance to the city gate just as Abimelech and his soldiers came out from their hiding place. And when Gaal saw them, he said to Zebul, "Hey, look, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains." And Zebul, the governor who's in cahoots with Abimelech, he replies, "You mistake the shadows of the mountains for men. Don't worry about those things that look like guys coming to attack." But Gaal spoke up again. "Look, people are coming down from the center of the land, and a company is coming from the direction of the soothsayer's tree." So Gaal is not convinced by Zebul's redirection, and he knows something's up. Then Zebul said to him, "Where's your big talk now? You who said, 'Who is Abimelech, that we should be subject to him?' Aren't these the men you ridiculed? Go out and fight them." So the plot thickens. The challenge is laid down. So Gaal led out the citizens of Shechem and fought Abimelech. Abimelech chased him, and many fell wounded in the flight all the way to the entrance to the gate. Abimelech stayed in Arumah, and Zebul drove Gaal and his brothers out of Shechem. So instead of overthrowing Abimelech, now Gaal is on the run. The next day, the people of Shechem went out to the fields, and this was reported to Abimelech. So he took his men, divided them into 3 companies, and set an ambush in the fields. And when he saw the people coming out of the city, he rose to attack them. And Abimelech and the companies with him rushed forward to a position at the entrance to the city gate. Then 2 companies rushed upon those in the fields and struck them down. So Abimelech is now killing his former subjects. All that day, Abimelech pressed his attack against the city until he had captured it and killed its people, and then he destroyed the city and scattered salt all over it. That means nothing ever is going to grow there again. On hearing this, the citizens in the tower of Shechem went into the stronghold of the temple in El Berith. And when Abimelech heard that they had assembled there, he and all his men went up Mount Zalmon. He took an axe and cut off some branches, which he lifted to his shoulders. He ordered the men with him, "Quick, do what you have seen me do." So he's gathering wood. So all the men cut branches and followed Abimelech. They piled them against the stronghold and set it on fire over the people inside. So all the people in the Tower of Shechem, about 1,000 men and women, also died. Now that takes us back. You remember the curse about fire? You remember what Jotham has said? All right, so now we're watching fire destroy the people of Shechem. Next, Abimelech went to Thebez and besieged it and captured it. Inside the city, however, was a strong tower to which all the men and women, all the people of the city fled. They locked themselves in and climbed up on the tower roof. Abimelech went to the tower and stormed it, but as he approached the entrance to the tower to set it on fire, remember, God's going to use the people of Shechem to burn you up, and you're going to burn them up. And here we are doing fire again at Jotham's decree. All right. As he gets close to this tower, what happens? A woman dropped an upper millstone on his head and cracked his skull. So from above, here comes a rock, hits Abimelech right in the head. Hurriedly, he called to his armor bearer, "Draw your sword and kill me," so that they can't say a woman killed him. There's something fairly prideful about that, huh? I'd rather die by the sword than say that a woman killed me. So his servant ran him through and he died. The end of Abimelech. When the Israelites saw that Abimelech was dead, they went home. Thus God repaid the wickedness that Abimelech had done to his father by murdering his 70 brothers. God also made the men of Shechem pay for all their wickedness. The curse of Jotham, that's the true son of Gideon, son of Jerubbaal, came on them. Wow, long chapter. But notice that nothing goes unnoticed by God, and even though it seems like the bad guys are winning, God still brings justice to bear and pays them back for their wickedness. We should learn from that, shouldn't we? God help us live well today. Serve him well, church. God bless you.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.